out.
How is everything with you? I didn't look, but I'm assuming that one guy just came through.
Yep.
That's cool.
I'm meeting him on Monday at 8:30 or 9. I can't remember what time it was, but 8:30 or 9.
Yeah. Is that timing stuff good for you? What day is it today? They can schedule whenever, so like 45 days out. So
no, I go in there pretty much almost daily and look at my scheduler and see that I'm not going to have any issues that the next week anybody's scheduling stuff.
That's dope. It's so funny to talk to some of you guys because I had one of the people I've recently signed up, they were asking me about that. And I was just like, hey, the best that I can say is I can get it to where it's scheduled out, but it's a rolling thing that happens. So you gotta
well, you don't want to push customers out any farther than 2 days usually on scheduling if you can, because they might just find someone else.
Right. And that's what I'm saying too, though. That gentleman, he's scheduled for Monday. Sometimes they will want it out. I've also ran into that where they're like, well, you don't have anything open next week, so I guess I'll hit you up in 3 weeks. It's always like you can never really make everybody happy is the thing that I've learned.
We'd all be millionaires if that was the case.
So then that's where I land at with the 2 day, the 24 to 48 hour thing is that it's just the sweet spot for you, for the customers, and then try to avoid, most people won't do that, but if people were booking out 6 weeks, that's obviously not gonna, that could cause problems too if you've got things coming up. So it's just always a catch-22. I appreciate all of you guys jumping on and then switching over here too, because that was wild. Just wanted to run through basically what I would do if I started an epoxy flooring business today, knowing what I know. So I just wanted to go through it. I literally basically have it as like step by step, but what would I do first? How would I go from zero business coming in, no leads, no Google profile, no website even, all the way up to a steady stream of jobs? And I just wanted to walk through what you would want to do, when you want to do it, and then again, why that even matters, why each step kind of matters. And then I just wanted to do this kind of as a casual, direct, super practical. I try not to talk about anything too crazy, but so just jumping right into that. First step, whenever you're launching your business, is definitely going to be a website. That's going to be your online home base, basically. So it's non-negotiable really at the end of the day too, especially in 2025. If you have a website, that's one thing, but if it's not a good looking website, people are going to get off of the website instantly when they land on it. So you do want to make sure that it's nice, but if you don't even have a website, you basically don't exist at all. Let me see 1 second.
It's true. I just got my website on Google Maps yesterday, matter of fact.
Hey, Jonathan, would you put yourself on mute, actually?
I thought you were talking. Oh, you got the whole.
No, you're good, buddies. Yeah, you don't have a website. You basically don't exist at all. If people search you and they can't find a website, they're going to skip past you right away. So it's super important. Like I said, it's your online home base. It's where people come and they can learn about your services. They can see your work. And then through that, they can actually decide if they're going to trust you or not. One of the main things, if you're going to set up a website for you, if you guys go and do this on your own, you want to make sure that it's SEO friendly, the website itself. So you want to think about what your customers are actually searching for as well. When they're searching for your products, if you sell garage floors, they're going to be searching for garage or coatings, something like that in Dallas or Tennessee, Memphis, whatever. Or sometimes they're searching stuff like the best epoxy contractor near me. You guys can look up some of those terms on your own, AI, whatever you want to do. But your site, ultimately, it should be built and written so that way it does show up whenever people are searching those terms on Google. So again, you need to find what those terms are. I'm not going to go through it because it could be like, really just pick the top ones like epoxy floors, concrete coatings, and then near me, like I said, that's also a really good one. Weird to fit those into your website sometimes. So that's kind of the specialty with, to actually do the SEO stuff for you guys. But general vibe, if your website is full of garage floor coating, like, hey, request a garage floor coating quote, do garage floor we do garage floors. It says that on like a single page. The chances are when people come on Google and they search, hey, like the best epoxy contractor, well, you would want an epoxy contractor on your website as well, but the best garage floor coatings near me, your website's going to have a chance of actually showing up. Again, we're not talking about going crazy with all these different SEO tricks. SEO is really big. It's a very big field. You don't need to go crazy, but just kind of those basics down. Again, there's keywords, and you just want those keywords on your website in some fashion. So that way Google can see all of that. They can see the website. They're tracking all of this stuff. So yeah, if you have those keywords, you're going to rank for those keywords. It's a little bit deeper than that, of course, but again, we're just talking about the foundations here, right? And then these pages, like if you want to set up different pages for like your own page, and then if you offer garage coatings, obviously, you would have a page for garage coatings, and then in that page, or like on the gallery page even, post a few floors that you've done, or if you're brand new, you can use like pieces, photos of you and like your partner, you work with a couple people, show a bit about who you are and then why you do what you do, and of course keep it simple, and then just keep it genuine. You really want your visitors to feel like they're meeting you whenever they're seeing this stuff. And you can replicate that on different pages. So if you offer concrete polishing, you can post photos of some polish jobs on that page, and then on each of these pages you can also, or you want to make sure that you have a clear call to action, at least one button where people can click to request a quote at the bottom of the page, fill out a form and get in contact with you. And at the very least, phone number, in a way that it's actually clickable too, though. I see a lot of guys put their phone number on the website and they can't really click it, do anything with it. That's not going to help you convert the traffic that you're bringing to the website. It's basically pointless. You don't want your website to be a brochure. You want them to be able to actually contact you, not just get information. And make it easy. Like I said, don't make them have to like phone number, go into their phone. If you linked it right, should be able to just click it. So invite them to reach out to you, make it easy for them to do that. And then again, yeah, the point of all of this is that when you have that SEO optimized website, when it's optimized for SEO search terms, it'll actually just start to pull in organic leads over time. Again, there's a little bit more that you need to do. We'll talk about that. Part of that's a Google profile. Part of that is reviews. And again, we'll keep on going from there. But if nobody knows you yet, your site is the one that answers their search when they're searching garage floor coatings. If they see your site and they pull up your page and they see the photos and they see that they can request a quote, think about how much easier that is for them to get in contact with you instantly, just like that. Again, you're not doing anything too complicated at that point. And then again, every other step that we do from here, again, if it's the Google profile, if we're talking about reviews or content like blogs more so than content. I'm talking about content in this session. That's a lot more what I'm focused on is blogs, just so you guys are aware. Whenever we're doing that, the Google profile actually links back to your website. You put your website as part of the information on your Google profile. Your reviews, when people are searching you, if they search the service, they see your reviews, they'll reach out to you on your website from the Google profile. And again, blogs are also attached to your website. So the website is really the hub of your online presence where everything kind of from there. And again, you'd be surprised how many guys I talk to that are running ads and don't have any website set up at all. Reviews, no Google profile, and you can do it. It just makes it a lot harder on you for sure. So you want to start at those foundations. The next step, obviously, I've kind of mentioned it a few times, is to get your Google business profile set up and running. This is the listing that lets you show up on Google Maps and in the local map pack. That top 3 search results, whenever you're searching, there's always the top 3. That's called the local map pack. There's 2 names for it, but being in that is incredibly amazing for your business. And again, you have to have the Google profile to even show up there. It's free, and it's, again, absolutely vital for a local service business, especially a company like Epoxy Flooring. So the hardest part of this is verifying and optimizing the Google profile, mainly verifying it. You can go to Google Business, just type that in on Google search, and then set up your Google profile, and then they'll ask you to verify it. A lot of the times it's by phone number, but sometimes they want you to do a video. If you guys end up having any trouble with that kind of stuff, you can reach out to me and I can try to walk you through it. It is super, super. There's a lot of different steps along the way. The best advice that I could give somebody is to not set up a Google profile right away. Try best to don't let people do it. Don't set it up. Don't do the first thing. You need to get your website set up and have your address on there. Like I say, if you look here on the screen, it talks about using a physical address if possible. Even if you're a home-based service, business, you can hide that address later, but having an address makes your life a ton easier. And when you make your website, if you're doing it SEO focused, you would have your address listed in the footer. These are some of those things that you guys will pick up if you go out and try to figure all this out by yourself. Again, I do this for you, but if you're following that process, then yeah, you have that address listed in your footer, and you want to leave that on your website for a few weeks, as long as you really can. So ideally, when you're kind of business, you would go through this process, and after a few weeks, then you can let go, and then it'll have that data from your website when you kind of see things get a little bit funky there. So, but just make sure when you're setting it up that you're filling out every single section. It makes you look more legitimate. Your description, your hours, your website link. Again, you want everything kind of go to that website. And then there's a section in there for services that you offer. Fill that out to the best of your ability as well. Make sure that you upload some photos. Whenever you're first creating the account, it'll ask you to do this. So have those ready. But standards is a logo, before and after floor. And then pictures of you on the job, or like with all of that stuff helps, especially if it's with customers and then, it's a more social proof like review. And make sure that you're using real info. Make sure you're using your business name. Don't add any weird stuff in there. Google has a ton of guidelines that you have to follow, or they'll suspend your profile. But the main point here is that the consistency is what matters. What the information on your website needs to match what's on Google when you're going through this process. And again, Google is going to use your website to kind of, so that's why the website's the foundational piece. But also, like we were talking about, it's just a Google business profile is absolutely vital. It's how local people in your area are going to actually find you on the map when they're searching for your services. If they're searching for epoxy, there's two different ways that actually happens too. I go into that if you guys want more information on that for sure. But there's results and then map. Go on Google search and type in epoxy flooring, you're going to get a bunch of results in that app for the search. But if you go on Google Maps, and type in epoxy, you're going to get a bunch of map listings, right? So the blogs, you'll show up in the search. The Google profile and the reviews is what helps you show up in maps. Just a little bit of a distinction there. But yeah, a well-off profile can start to bring in those leads for free. Like I was talking, it can take a little bit of time. But the point from here is once you have the website and then you have the Google setup, that's where the customer reviews actually kind of comes into play. That's where reviews will really start to boost your SEO traction more than anything. And just think about your own behavior. Whenever you need a service like a plumber, if you're looking for a new pizza shop to stop at, or a coffee shop somewhere, a gas station, maybe not gas station reviews, but you're Googling businesses. Even if you don't do that, I know that people look up, to get reviews on the products that you're going to buy for your business. You're going to check out reviews people have left on, you could use. So you guys understand that you're so are your customers. They're definitely going to check out your reviews as well. We want your Epoxy business to be one of those top results, those top 3, with enough content and enough website content about your services and stuff to actually show up, and then also be showing up with those 5 stars right next to it, right? So with all of that, that's where you switch step 3. This is where you want to collect your first 10 reviews. Your social proof is actually gold. When people can see that there's reviews on your profile and there's 10 other people that have left 5-star reviews, and especially if they're authentic and you're not trying to game the system to do all of this, that shows other people that might land on your page that you can be trusted instantly. So this is why, again, like I said, it's not just SEO. When you have those reviews, it actually helps your close rates down the line. Your conversions go up from all of the leads that you're pushing your way. So hopefully that starts to help you guys see the bigger picture that we're moving towards there. But definitely, before you start spending a dime on ads, I really was hustling to get to at least 10 reviews as fast as possible. And there's a reason why that number 10 is actually important. It's enough to look established. as a business and trustworthy to a complete stranger. Even just going from 0 to 5 reviews is a game changer for you guys. When you do, you'll naturally increase your Google profile. Google starts to kind of throw you on once you get to 5, but you really need to look at your competition and see, you know, if guys with 30, 40, and there's a few of them, that's kind of more so the competition that you're looking at. But once you get to that 10, you're gonna, you know, it's gonna be easier. Google's gonna be starting to get you some traffic. And again, there's no ad spend with any of this stuff. It's super cheap, super free to do this. Just the website cost really is all that we've kind of covered, is anything that would cost so far. And then just to help get those 10 reviews, I would suggest, you know, if you're starting out and you're just trying to get your foot in the door and really make a name for yourself, you might want to do jobs for cheap or even free. Free's a little bit crazy, but, you know, breaking the discount, kind of paying you into the game, it might be something that you need to do. Just in the beginning, you got to swallow your pride on your pricing. I know you look at yourself and you look at your business and you're like, yeah, floors, and I just want to charge top dollar. Sometimes that's a lot more than you might realize, and it's better to focus on your and get for these things. It's 1000% to actually undercharge or break even on your first few projects, but only if the customer is willing to actually give you an honest review and maybe let you use their photos, like the photos of the job site, on your website, etc. But I would go really, really hard. If you're going to give somebody that discount, just make sure that they're, you know, enough to actually leave you that review in the end. You don't want to just be discounting people, and then people will that they'll give you referrals, that they'll give you reviews if you hook them up. And I've seen that go south so many. So just make sure when you're giving that discount in return, ask them to write about the experience on Google. Let them know that you're starting your business, you're trying to get the name out there. That review will really help. So if you're going to help them out, that you just ask that they help you out. You know, it's creating a bit of free labor for public and credibility that you'll start to build. And then the other thing is, you don't want to wait. Sometimes I talk to guys and I'll go back to some jobs that I did 6 months ago and we can ask them for reviews. I know that they'll be happy. It becomes almost impossible at that point, to be honest. So the moment that you finish a job, and they're telling you, hey, yeah, I love it. This is way better than I thought it was going to be. That's your, you can say something like, hey, it would help me a ton if you would just shout that on the Google profile. I just set it up. Get more traction. I'll shoot you the link, and it literally takes like 52 seconds. You can get it done real quick. And then just to them, sometimes you have to go as far. I had a guy reach out to me about an elderly person that he had done some work for, and he was asking me about what he should do. And I told him, I was like, hey man, sometimes you might just, if you got to do what you got to do, basically. But yeah, you can ask them if it's okay if you up on their phone so they can type it out. Google makes it super easy. So it's basically just a text box. But yeah, so just go through that process and maybe make it a little bit easier for some of your clients, depending on where they're at. Don't just assume that all of them can just jump on Google and leave the review, especially if you're trying to hit that mark, so that way you can generate yourself some traffic, right? And then they do leave a review, make sure that you reply to it. This is like the last crown on top of the SEO things, but it is something that Google looks at. If you have a ton of reviews, if that's same between you and another company, but they were actually replying to every review, same amount of reviews, same rating, the company that's replying more is actually going to be favored by Google. You look more reputable because you're more engaged. Everything else is the same, but like the fact that more engaged, Google's like, oh, okay, they're in, and this stuff, it's called, and it really is based around your reputation. If your website's got a different phone number than your Google profile, and your, stuff is combobulated, and you're not replying to reviews, that's the that actually hurts you in all of this stuff, right? But you make sure that you're replying to them. It not only shows gratitude, but like I said, it also signals to other people that are reading about you for the first time that you're responsive and you care. And like I said, it also helps appease the Google SEO in the background. So like, yeah, in another, I just kind of went over that. It boosts local SEO, and those reviews actually help your leads in the long run. Even just those reviews on a landing page or the website, when people are coming to your website from other places, like a Google ad or a Facebook ad, and they can see those reviews on your website, that's going to help you too, right? So like I said, yeah, 10 is magic number, kind of gets things, it can be the difference between your phone ringing and just complete silence from your Google page. And then again, also think about it. Would you be an epoxy guy with no reviews, or the one with at least 10 5-star reviews that are raving about how punctual they are, the quality of the floor, and how great the garage looks? That's exactly the point here, right? So, and then again, I kind of touched on as well, but don't be shy here. You have to actively seek out these reviews from these customers. And the thing with it is that, yeah, most are going to think to do it on their own. But also you have to understand that the transaction is essentially done. That's the way that I like to explain that. Once you know, an ad or get a lead and you convince them to buy from you, you're exchanging money for the floor, right? And so once you've made that exchange, when you go and ask them for a review, you're basically asking for a second favor, a second thing, and you're not actually giving them anything. And this is why offering an incentive for reviews is really, really powerful. You just have to be careful about how you go about doing that. Again, Google, they get about certain things, but I get with that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, it's an amazing thing, but you have to actually push for it because you're asking for an extra favor at that point. You're asking them to go out of their way when the transaction's already done, if that makes sense. But if you just ask them, they're typically more than willing to do it for you. And like I said, sometimes you just got to maybe send them a brownie, send them a Starbucks card, something like that, you know? So next step after that, once you've got the website set up, you've got the Google profile set up, and you've got 10 reviews on your Google profile, the next thing would be, even we're asking for reviews would be to ask for referrals at the same time. Once they engage after a few weeks, you know, you can break it down how you want to ask them. You can ask them at the same time, but those referrals are, I know a lot of people that I talk to, essentially why I'm making this specific video to help you guys, you know, get to a place where you actually have some revenue coming in, but you guys are at the same time also relying on word of mouth services or word of mouth marketing whenever I talk to you guys. It's a cool marketing technique that literally will, never go out of style. It's been around forever. It's like one of the original marketing techniques that you do. But yeah, it's in the home and contracting world. People themselves, like homeowners, they're gonna trust recommendations from, you know, their family, people that they know. They're going to trust that a lot more and feel more comfortable. So they kind of lean in. Then if you're not have a website to send referrals to, if you don't have a Google profile with the reviews to you know, those and that don't really have anything except for somebody else's word to go off, and then you're not asking for the referrals, you know, the biggest thing is you just have to actually ask. And if you start asking every single one of your jobs, just ask them if they don't, you know, hey, know anybody else, any other homeowners, anybody else that's talked about their garage being messed up? And you'd be surprised how much work you can actually drum up just off of that. Some people run their entire company off of that. I would not suggest to do that, but that's what I was mentioning at the beginning, you know, guys, and that's all that they're really running for marketing services. So, but yeah, you have to, the main thing, I think when I was younger, I started to understand single happy customer. They know somebody, they have a phone full of people, you know, family, workers. So once you've wowed that customer with their new floor, just let them know how important referrals are to young businesses like you when you're trying to start out. And just casual, sincere, and seed with them. You know, you don't have to go too crazy. You can just ask for the referral, and then later down the line, as people come over, they might be like, "Oh yeah, I should." You know, you just plant those seeds again. And then you can always leverage your personal network. You can leverage your friends, your family, or even old coworkers. Like I said, every single person's phone is full of those people, friends, family, and coworkers. So part of your referral engine too, you definitely don't want to spam them. You know, it's your family, but you can at least announce what you're doing, whether you go onto your personal Facebook or your Instagram and post about a project that you just did. That'll people to start to recognize. But the thing is that friends, family, and current coworkers, whatever the situation is, they can't refer you if they don't even know that you're doing floors. So just make sure that your circle is actually aware that you're like the flooring guy or girl now in your area, right? And I personally have gotten jobs through referrals. And it's an amazing thing, to be honest, and it can lead to some awesome places too. And like I said, with reviews was another big thing. You can also kind of reward people. You just make sure, like it says here, just make sure that it's appropriate, because you know you can get yourself into some trouble trying to pay for referrals as well if you don't do it smart. But yeah, I said you can definitely give them something in return to make it feel like everybody's winning. Make it, you know, if they were a referral, which is more money, but they're not getting another floor. You know, there's just a little bit of psychology in the background that's happening that you have to make sure that you're playing into. But I've seen a lot of guys offer a thank you gift card or a discount on, you know, on a discount to the referral. Sometimes I suggest trying to kind of make sure everybody's getting a little bit of something. It's definitely not required, but when you do that, even for the past customer, it shows appreciation, and then it can actually encourage them to send you even more referrals as well. You know, at the very, very least, that you're thanking them. Get on a call with them and say, hey, that job came out good, and thank you, man. I'm gonna buy you a steak someday or something. But yeah, if you want to dial this in, you can try to find your customer acquisition costs. I know that might be a little bit higher level if you're just starting out. But if you are marketing and, you know, if you're long and you're liking what I'm talking about here and you happen to know your customer acquisition costs, look at what that is on average, and then you can offer that to people instead of running ads and it costs you, let's say you run ads and it costs you on average, you know, $50 per lead. You can offer that, or, you know, yeah, it is offer half of it as a referral bonus, offer the $50 to the, you know, the preferred and the referrer. You can get creative, but what happens is when you do that, and when you offer those referral bonuses, you're turning appreciation into a repeatable growth strategy. Like I said, you just have to actually turn it into a strategy. Don't just rely on word of mouth. Don't just rely on the referrals. Actually do something with it. Try to formulate an actual plan that you can, you know, repeat discounts, whatever it's gonna be there, right? But early on, yeah, if you have money for big ads on Google can get crazy. If you don't have ad spend for Facebook, and you don't have a name in your community yet, referrals can definitely help you out a lot. It'll bring in warm leads where they kind of already know a little bit about you, or they might even seen your floor, and then cost you anything, or like I said, maybe just a few bucks if you want to pay for the completed jobs. That's how I would suggest that you do that. Is, you know, don't do the name, the referral, make it super low, but people probably wouldn't engage with that. So yeah, when you complete a job, that's when you can actually pay out that referral. And then these leads to actually close easier too, because they come in with that trust already built in. You know, Big John wouldn't have recommended this epoxy guy if he was no good. If Tyler wasn't any good at any floors, John's not going to recommend him to me. So once if John's with him, obviously he did a good job. He went, you know, so. And the other thing is that every referral job that you do, it's another opportunity to, again, once you finish that referrals job, ask them for a review and ask them for a referral. And hopefully with that, you can start to see the loop starting to form. Once you do every single job, you ask for the review, that goes on your Google profile, which is going to help the Google searches. So you're going to get more traffic, but it's also more social proof, which makes it easier for you to close, which will also bring you more jobs, which you can ask for referrals, you know, and you keep this loop going. And that's kind of this you want to get yourself into, so you can start to build momentum with basically out of nothing. And a little bit of goodwill. Sometimes, like I said, you got to help people out sometimes there, but like you might have to do stuff for free. You might get just a cheap website set up. You might have to do jobs at a lower rate, or you might have to ask those favors for the reviews and the referrals, and that's okay. This is the foundation of everything. This goodwill, when you're trying to kind of go out of the way to help people, them out, not you out, that in the long run actually pays off. This is how you get a good reputation. People will speak highly of you. They'll refer you a lot, you know? So, because I've guys come in and spend thousands of dollars on fancy equipment or dropping a ton of money on ads, and then nobody's actually connecting with them. Nobody's actually calling. Nobody's booking appointments. Nobody's actually closing, right? And then there's just some new guy that comes in who's really hard up about the relationships, his value, how he's servicing the people, how he's speaking to what he's doing, providing really good customer service, and making sure that he looks good online, sets up his website, gets a review from every customer, and then they start getting calls just after a few weeks. It really doesn't take that long. I mean, how hard you go and how serious you take it, right? But that hustle, the heart, and then the ability to communicate well, that'll be just simply having an ad budget, even when you're really small. Like, again, you can just launch an ad, and if you don't have a website set up, that could be kind of fatal for trying to do. So just that heart and the ability to communicate, that's like the outside of any of this other technical stuff, that's like the more skills business stuff, I would say, you would want to really focus on. But at this point, if you follow steps 1 through 4, you've actually laid out the groundwork. You have a basic website, you've got a Google presence now, you have some reviews on that Google profile, and maybe a few jobs under your belt with people out there that are spreading the word for you, about you. And this is huge. It means that you can start to those organic leads to trickle in. Once you, again, get to that 10 reviews, plus you got the referrals coming in, you're going to quickly hit 20 reviews. And again, yeah, you'll just start, Google's going to start tossing you phone calls at that point. When somebody's in your area, garage floor, epoxy garage floor near me, they're going to find your listing with the 5 stars, the 10 stars, the 15 stars, 20 stars, whatever. And then they're going to click through. They'll click on that. You know, if you're top 3, they'll click on your little profile. And then in there is your phone number, your website. More than likely, what I see more often than not is they click on the website. They double check that your website looks good, that you've got good reviews, you know, that you look like a legit good business. And then if you have the call to action there for your phone number or for them to book an appointment, they'll do that right then and there, right? So that's kind of that whole system there. That, you know, what you would really want to do is just kind of keep on momentum. This is like the next level of SEO kind of comes in. Steps 1 through 4 is that foundational stuff, the website, reviews, asking for referrals, asking, and mindset stuff, right? The next really is to, yeah, make sure kind of from the beginning with the website having the address and the phone number and everything to match up to Google. The same kind of exists, keep going further. As you grow and you grow your online footprint and you start showing up on Yelp or on Thumbtack or wherever these, you know, you just want to make sure that each one of those sites has the exact same phone number, the same, all of the same information. It needs to be as consistent as possible. And I know that this sounds super, super boring. Trust me, it matters a ton for your credibility and for SEO. Google looks at all of this stuff, and we kind of touched on, if you've got mixed match phone numbers, you look kind of scammy, kind of maybe not in service, and they're not going to really want to recommend you, right? So you can actually actively go and get your business listed on these platforms outside of just, do you have a question, Jonathan?
Yeah, so with adding your business address to sites and stuff, I don't want to add my home address. Is that something I have to do for business purpose?
I would say, like, for this.
Yeah, I don't want home address online personally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have guys that do have addresses. I would tell you, like, I know there's a lot of different reasons why you want your home address up there, but just in my experience, I have some guys that have put theirs, and like, people don't just show up, you know, at flooring business like page like that. I've been doing this for like 2 years, and that's never happened to me. But I know there's other reasons, like I said, like there's other security reasons and stuff like that. I would tell you, if you go and do this by yourself, I can't really make any guarantees. Like, if you go on Yelp or Nextdoor or some of these places, they'll kind of automatically put an address. If doing your because I can also do it too through my own software services, I can actually push out this information and include that. So it does. So like, I do listed like that. I just don't want to confuse you and tell you like that I can do it, but that it doesn't really exist, you know, if you do it by yourself, because that is, that's that if you try to do it by yourself, yeah, they're going to have to put the address more than likely. If you do work with me, I can, you know, and it's just me. There's other people that can do this too, but I know how to do it, where I can hide your address on all of these places, even the other ones that I'll mention, like Apple Maps be hard, and you know, I don't think Apple Maps lets you do a service area, but being in you know, search, all of that is okay. Yeah,
because
like
what I'm doing with address wise, I've been doing just putting the city I'm in, but some spot, like some type of sites, they literally want your specific address.
Yeah,
like, so I was just like that. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for asking, Jonathan. The only thing I would say about that, just kind of going, is just that's sort of what had come into guys that are a little bit more established. They kind of went phase of trying to get themselves listed on a couple places, and then the information actually ends up mixed matched a lot of the times. Like maybe they running a different kind of business, like a handyman service before, and then they're like, oh no, I want to do epoxy, but they use the same phone number. And when you're doing that, stuff starts getting real mixed match. And again, Google just hates that. You got to try to make sure, like I said, I know it sounds so boring, but you got to try to make sure every single little piece, and it includes Facebook, that the address, phone number, and everything on Yelp and on Google also needs to be on your Facebook, all of that stuff. And, you know, to your Facebook will let you put just like, you know, but you try to kind of keep it as similar as possible as you can, essentially, and just keep it in your mind. Like if you know that things are kind of mixed matched and go forward, you could always work with to help kind of clean that stuff up later. And again, you don't have to jump into Angie's, Home Advisor, Nextdoor, Apple Maps, Bing. There's like of the places where you can actually list your information. You don't have to do that all at once, but just over time, just knock out one a month, however much is within reason for you, but just kind of get into a few key ones like Yelp, Facebook, Home Advisor, you know, extra ones that just kind of help with the Google side of things and the algorithm side of things. But yeah, Angie's and Advisor, Nextdoor, Yelp, these places are actually can drive leads for you more so. Yellow Page is a big one too that I really like. As I always try to tell guys, if you do concrete polishing, make sure that you're on Yellow Pages because people get on Yellow Pages searching for concrete polishing like it's no other business. So, but yeah, if you're Shine Epoxy LLC on your website or one of these sites, and then on your profile it actually says Super Shine Epoxy Flooring, you know, that's gonna mix match. Or if you've got one number over here and one number over there, that's all stuff is what is the problem. It's the consistency that actually matters, because Google, they have something called web crawlers, and they'll go and look at all these profiles, and they're just match up like a map of the internet, and they're cross-checking all of this stuff. And then when they see that your business info is the same across all of these reputable websites like Yelp, Facebook, you know, Angie's, basically says that they can trust your business more. And so that actually starts to boost your rankings. It avoids confusion too. Like I've had experiences in the past where, you know, not epoxy, but when I first started, I used to work with restaurants, and their hours would be off. And so people would like look on, if the hours are off for like a restaurant, people think that you're open, they drive, and your hours are not right. You're gonna even, you know.
So say I have my actual operating name is Imperial Veneer Epoxy, but my LLC name is Imperial Veneer LLC. But I have Imperial Veneer Epoxy everywhere on my sites and everything. I don't know if that matters or not.
It's the thing is that whatever you're out there, like your
was actually promoted.
Yeah, your paperwork say LLC, but whatever's being promoted. I'm working on that with a guy right now. His paperwork for his LLC on it, but the Google profile just says concrete coatings, not LLC at the end. So but if you put LLC on the Google profile, you want to put LLC on your Facebook, you want to put LLC on Yelp, you know, so one to go with. And that the thing is with that is that you got to make sure that you can get Google profile with that. Some Google tells you not to put LLC in there. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you LLC on your paperwork and you go to make a Google profile, one of those guidelines is to not add LLC and stuff. So name on Google should not have LLC. And then from there, the rest of your pages should also not have LLC, if that makes sense. And yeah, I try to avoid any confusion that could possibly exist. And you never know, man, people can be all over the place sometimes. And then just if you have a physical location actually listed, if you actually have an address listed and you're not a service area page, even if it is your home, just make sure that the street, if you put T, don't put street and spell it out on Facebook and have ST on Google. I just want to keep on drilling that point in. Those little discrepancies is what really hurts Google's the one that gets upset about that. Not anybody else. It's just the algorithm in Google and all of the stuff that's looking. So But yeah, that is the foundational pieces of the organic lead machine that we're talking about, that you're basically building at this point. The consistent info across the web, it helps you rank higher, like we mentioned, and it even helps you show up in those voice searches, like I was telling Jonathan there, and Alexa, Siri. These places will actually pull from these directories as well. So if somebody's like, hey, is there an epoxy flooring company nearby, on Siri, or like, what's the best one, or whatever they're searching, that's how sites like Alexa and getting that information. So obviously it's super important. And then let's say that somebody finds you on Google, on Yelp, and then they go on to Google, like then they're getting one business, one unified business. You don't want it to be super disorienting, basically. Makes it look better to them, right? So after that, the next thing to do is to actually start posting content and then stay active. That's a way to attract customers and build trust in your community with the people that are coming into your profile. The content, it can mean, Instagram, but it also can mean posting updates to your Google profile. I don't know if you guys, I mean, if you have a Google profile right now, you wouldn't know that. But if you do have one, there's actually functions like a social media page kind of, and you can also post offers on there. There's like a specific offer posting. So if you're running like a 10% off discount right now, you can post that to your Google profile, and it's super. Just a lot of people don't use it for whatever reason. But also content is also adding blog posts to your website, but it's all sharing reels and photos, before and after photos on Instagram and Facebook. But again, content can be multiple things. Like I said, when I'm talking to you guys, especially about like getting set up and generating leads, social media content does work, but blogging is really where you want to lean into. When it actually kind of shows your site's active, and that you're also aware of like the epoxy. We get a chance to kind of show off knowledge, right? The Google profile posts, pretty straightforward. You can post photos on there too. So just like a review, when people go to your profile, if they see a bunch of photos, I always tell guys to take photos in garages with customers, like when have them hold up a sign or just shake their hands and take a photo with you. Post that to your Google profile right away, and wait for their review even, like that. Want to kind of be tough, but those posts, it helps Google. You just want to be giving Google every signal to say that you're active, that you're reputable, that you are a good business, and they will start to reward that 1000% by sending people away, by showing you as the top spot out of the top 3 even. This is those differentiating pieces there for you guys. Like I said, blogs on the site. If you like writing, or if you can hire somebody else to write, or if you happen to know how to use AI well enough, you could have the AI do it. And then you can have a blog section on your actual website. Just write short articles that answer questions that people might have about like how to the epoxy garage, how to deal with like salt if a problem in your area, why epoxy is good for flooded basements if that's a problem in your area. Sometimes you can stuff, think of you are going on jobs and you're losing bids to other types of like traditional flooring, like tile or hardwood. You can write blogs about what the difference is between epoxy and tile, or epoxy and hardwood, and why, yes, sometimes the pricing might be add one way or the other, but in the end, you're going to have to replace carpet all the freaking time, especially if it floods again, or again, where you guys are at. But what's happening, you can actually write blogs about that. And then if you the same situation again, if it's a common issue and you already have a blog, well, right away, you send them that blog post, and they'll probably be impressed that it was already done, and they can see the date that you posted it last year, whatever. But the words in the blog post, when you're posting how to maintain epoxy garage floors, like floors is now on your website through your blog, and that will help when the people are searching. If you guys remember, I was talking about maps and then search places where you show up on Google, whether that's on the map or in the search function. Blogs, when you're posting those keywords, you'll show up in the search. And then, yeah, if you guys work with me, when I write blogs, at the very bottom of your blogs, on all of them, people can actually request quotes and stuff like that. So again, the blog kind of leads towards trying to capture that lead. And then also, like I naturally mentioned, it also impresses your potential clients. It shows that you really know your stuff, that you're on it, and that you're super professional. It's a different level of professionalism to have blog posts versus only posting videos on your Instagram page, you know? Don't need 100 blog posts at all. Even just one new article a month is great, but 4 to 8 blog posts a month is really like, that's king SEO. If you're trying to get leads off of the effort that you're putting into blogging, you want to try to hit at least once a week. I know that's probably crazy for you guys, but if you're just starting out, you probably don't have 20 to 30, 40 leads coming in from your ads. So you could probably stomach, you know, dedicating your time to writing those blogs. At a minimum, make sure that you have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and then obviously post pictures of every single job that you're doing. You do want to get the homeowners okay. You can flat out. And then obviously just write short captions about how amazing the job was. It's also this, those come off as social proof, not necessarily you selling, but show that you are good at what you're doing to the people that are already following you. That's what those posts should do, is show, you know, what people are happy. And then same thing, consistency with your social media posts, whether that's just a few posts a week or even just once a week. It kind of keeps you on people's mind. They might not be ready to make the commitment to make, you know, some a little bit easier, but if you're doing bigger jobs, sometimes you just kind of need to open and active in people's minds. Sometimes it can take a few months, you know, for close. And then the big thing here is to just, especially if you're just starting out, is to not stress perfection. The key is to use real and useful content. Don't like fabricate statements about how this new product is 20 times, you know, stronger than epoxy and will save your life or whatever. You don't need to be crazy. And then you also don't need to be a filmmaker and write these elaborate stories for people to follow. Just a 2-minute smartphone video on your social media about of you top coating a floor, just talking over the content. You don't even have to show yourself. I know a lot of you guys kind of freak out about that. So you can just do a voiceover and be like, this is what we did on the job today. If you need help doing any of that stuff, actual tutorial, let me know. But also just a blog post that's basically a list of epoxy like colors that you use, your top colors. That would be super helpful to some of your customers, probably, especially if you could talk about it a little bit more in depth. And then again, content is where you're starting to get into that longer game. It slowly increases your visibility online, and it also slowly positions you as an expert. If you only have one blog, you're not going to look like that much of an expert. When you've got 1,000 blogs about all of these different topics and problems, and people are going to be like, well, what the heck? That's a lot of stuff, right? So someone who's on the fence, they're not sure if they wanted to go with you or not, or maybe a cheaper quote, and then they read your how to maintain article. And then they think, wow, this guy, he even educated me on how to take care of the floor. He really knows his stuff. And that's that expertise that I need. He's going to take that level of care with my floor. They might not actively think these things, but it's just all of these little things, even back to the first 4 steps, the reviews, just seeing it kind of helps people sometimes feel more comfortable choosing you as the contractor that's going to come and do stuff in their home, which is also not a very light thing to be doing. But with that as well, Google likes those posts, but they also like the updates to your website through blog content. So no matter where you're really doing these updates, Google is seeing it, and they're going to, even on Facebook, and they're going to love to see that, right? So, and then of course, when you do eventually run ads, when you have that website that's full of those blogs and the reviews and photos and everything, we've talked about a few times, all of those little things, it really actually dramatically improves your conversion rate. People will actually get on your website. They'll say, when they call you, they're like, I was checking out your gallery and it looks like you're the only one that can do these floors that I've seen, or it just looks like people are really happy, whatever it is. But if they find an active Facebook page with recent photos, like I said, of customers, you're taking photos in their garages, if they find that, or if they find it, and then through that, I post those blogs directly to the social media pages for you guys. So if they see all of those photos and then they happen to see a blog post that had, like, I just happened to get in front of a question about tile, that they had some tile sitting around and they didn't know if they wanted to do the tile or they wanted to do the epoxy, and they just happened to see that post, you're probably going to get that lead. You know what I'm saying? So that to that point, they'll feel a lot more confident about reaching out to you. And that really ultimately is the essence of the power of content. It nurtures your leads silently until they're actually ready to buy from you, right? And then, so once you're here, once you've got the website, Google profile, reviews, referrals coming in, you're writing up some content, you're posting some content, you should have all of your ducks in a row. You should have the consistent information. And then, like I said, the content is actually flowing. And then you should be getting those leads coming in organically through your Google profile, through your website. And then now would be the time where you would want to pour a little bit of gasoline on the fire with the paid advertising, if you're ready and if you can afford the controlled budget at that point. One of the first things that I suggest guys doing is to jump on Google Ads. These put you at the top of Google searches. Even if you don't have a Google profile, you can skip the line and get your website and business stuff shown up at the top by using the ads. Now, I will say that it does show that you're running an ad, and sometimes there are some people that know that and they'll avoid it. They'll want to go with somebody that actually has the reviews, not somebody that's paying, right? So again, that's how we start with the reviews as well. But when you run those ads on Google, it'll actually put you at the top, like I said. And then it's a big advantage because when people are searching for garage floor epoxy in your city, there's a really high, it's called high search intent, but the intent behind the search is more than likely to buy at that point. If they're searching, they probably want to buy what you offer. So even just a modest budget, I'd say 50 to 100 bucks a day, targeted in your local area, that can generate a really steady trickle of leads coming in. Your area really matters. If you live in a more densely populated area, that's going to help you a lot more, right? But the thing is that you want to make sure that you're sending them to an actual relevant page where they have the ability to contact you. You don't want to send them to just a gallery page. When you set up the Google Ads, there's a landing page. You can send them to your website, but even that might not be a good idea because they could get lost in the gallery. Like I said, they can get lost on your social media, and you just paid to have them go to your website, but now they're on your Facebook and they'll get distracted by their sisters or whoever's cousin's post. So that's why that's kind of key. If you are running those Google Ads, if you do happen to try to branch out and do all of this on your own, just make sure that you're setting it up right properly on that end. Facebook and Instagram ads is kind of where I would go to next personally. Again, it depends on your market, and sometimes you have to just fill these things out. But social media ads are what you would consider, instead of having that search intent where they're searching for the product name on Google and then seeing your ad and reaching out. Social media ads on Facebook and Instagram, that's called interruption marketing. You're catching people who were not actively looking for the epoxy floors at that moment. The thing that's good about that is that you can actually target homeowners in specific area codes, people that are interested in home improvement, or you can't really target homeowners directly, but you can finagle your way into making sure that your ad is showing up to homeowners instead of apartment owners. And then I personally suggest to run video only. Photos and stuff on Facebook ads works, but video, it works a lot better to grab attention. Think about just mixing up some epoxy with some pigment if you're doing metallics, of course. But just think about how catchy that would be versus just like a photo, even of a good floor. Video of the floor is going to do a lot better, basically. These leads from Facebook, they might be more curious and not so much of an urgent or ready to buy position. So you'll need to make sure that you have a good follow-up game, which we'll get into with the automation here in a moment. But I've seen epoxy businesses get awesome deals from someone just seeing a beautiful floor on Facebook that they had posted and being like, hey, we should do this in the garage, right? And then they'll reach out, and then you got to teach them about the epoxy. You got to teach them about why the value is good and why it's worth what you're charging. From there, again, on Google, you can't deal with that, but there's also some caveats with that too. It can end up being a little bit more expensive. So when you first start, you just want to try to start small. Like I said, Google can be a little bit more expensive, but if you're brand new, you're just getting through those referrals, getting some organic traffic. You don't want to go super crazy on Google and spend all of your money because it's very easy to do that on Google. But you also just want to make sure that you start small and then test one channel at a time. Don't try to do it all at once. Maybe run Google Ads for a month with $1,000 or $1,500 budget, and then see how many calls or emails you get. Or you can run a Facebook ad for $100 a day, promoting a spring special, summer special, whatever. The main key here is to make sure that you're actually tracking everything. Ask the people that you're speaking to how they heard of you if you don't know. just get into the habit of asking them, because it's good to find that stuff out. And then use different contact forms, whether that's for the Google ad or the Facebook ad, or maybe use a different phone number for the Google ad, so you can, again, track all of this stuff. That way you know what's actually worth it to keep investing in, and what's actually working and what's not working. It's a huge pro tip there. And then again, don't rely on ads alone. Ads are like a faucet. When you can turn them on, but you're going to pay for them. And when you do that, the leads are going to flow in. But when you turn them off, those leads are going to slow down. They're not going to be coming in. So that's why you want to start with the foundation first of the SEO, with the blogs. For one reason, you're not spending ad money. But for the other reason is that when you've got the website right, the profile right, with the reviews right, and then you're just naturally asking for reviews and referrals, that just is going to keep people coming in. And you don't have to keep on, there's no on off on that unless you just stop. But even if you just stop, if you get to a certain point with enough reviews, if you just stop, you'll still just get traffic coming in, again, without the need to turn on and manage ad budgets and all of that stuff. But once you have that foundation, then the ads will actually supercharge that lead flow. And then, like I said, it's a 1-2 punch, because you'll be in the background while you're running the ads. You'll also have those organic leads coming in, thanks to the reviews, SEO, and content. It's amazing stuff there. So again, the next step from there would be to automate everything. Once you've got everything set up, you'll start getting those leads coming in. If you turn on the ads, if you ran ads at how I just described it, you should get between 20 to 40 leads, roughly, maybe a little bit more. But while you're asking for reviews, asking for referrals, you're also got to be doing the sales calls. And then we haven't really touched on the fact that you also need to be doing the installs, right? So as you're trying to juggle the leads and the jobs, all of that, it's awesome, but it can get overwhelming super fast. And manually texting every single lead, remembering to follow up with the folks who said, hey, call me next week. Let me talk to my husband, or let me talk to my wife. Trying to keep track of all of the estimates that you sent, all of that stuff can turn into a chaotic mess super quick. So this is where automation and systems saves your sanity, and it actually will boost your conversions rate too. You'd be surprised how many people just slip through the cracks on these things. So what can automation do for you? Even while you're sleeping, it can book more jobs for you. Automation helps you respond to those leads basically instantly, especially if you're using AI or a CRM that has automations built into it. Even if you're on a ladder, or if you're mixing the epoxy, whatever's going on, the automations can be taking care of that for you. Let's say somebody fills out a form on your website. As soon as that form gets filled out, just send them a text message saying, hey, we got that request. Automate a notification to yourself, a phone call to yourself. The main thing here is that speed is what wins jobs. You can always look at that example with Angie's. If you go and work with Angie's, you'll get a lead and it gets shared to 5 guys. The first person to reach out usually is going to be the one. Well, even when you're not working in that kind of scenario where the leads are exclusive, you want to make sure that you're still responding to them as fast as possible. There's some studies from IT that show that if you take longer than 5 minutes, after 5 minutes, your close rate starts to decrease insane. You've got a 5-minute window to get a hold of the new lead, whether they're a brand new Facebook lead, a new Google lead, a new website lead, someone visited your Google profile and is calling you, whatever it is. You just really want to get a quick response off to these guys, because it's going to help you land that customer and, again, increase that conversion rate. Automation also makes it to where you don't manually have to chase leads around. Have you ever played phone tag with a potential client and then just eventually been like, don't even know what's happened to them? The crazy thing with automations is that you can just automate the follow-up via text, email, and you can even do voicemail drops depending on the CRM and stuff that you're using. We do that. We can record your voice, or we can record it for you. And we'll just say, hey, just checking on that estimate we sent over a couple days ago. But automating it is what's the secret. Whenever you're on too many jobs with too many floors, again, I know that might sound wild right now as you're just trying to get started, but the automation just takes care of everything. It makes sure that you can keep people in your wheelhouse and keep having opportunities to talk to them. And sometimes they just need to get reminded. You don't know, just like you might get busy. Sometimes life hits people. There's real things that happen. Sometimes people deal with, I hate talking about it, but sometimes something can happen in their family. You just never know. Automation can also turn those cold leads into warm leads. Not everybody that comes into your system, especially if you're running Facebook ads like we were talking about, they're not going to be ready to buy right away. Some are just inquiring. Some are just getting a better idea. Some, again, get busy. Sometimes they get hesitant. And then sometimes they just fall off right up, just all the way. But a good automated workflow, it might send them helpful info over a week or two. Some of those blog posts, maybe on the first day, you'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's a link to our gallery for inspiration for the floor itself. Maybe on day 3, you say, hey, here's a blog that's got a couple tips on how epoxy can actually increase the home value in your home. It protects the concrete. And then when you go to sell it, you can maybe get it appraised for more, right? And then a couple of days later, you can say, hey, we've got an open slot. Do you want us to go ahead and just pencil you in? Just assume that maybe they're ready to move forward. But when you do that slow drip and you're not just saying, hey, are you ready? Hey, you want to go? Hey, do you want to buy? Hey, do you want to buy? Right? You're giving them more value than just saying, hey, I was following up. And it keeps them happy. It's just kind of annoying to keep saying, hey, just following up. Did you talk to your husband? But it keeps you on top of mind. And again, I think I was talking about it a few times there. Sometimes people need a little bit of time to make these decisions to have you come and tear up the floor in their house. But by the time that they're actually ready, they're going to feel like they know you, that they know about your business. They know about who's in your business, if you're a husband and wife running it, if you're 2 friends, whatever. That's the point of everything else I've been talking about. They should, at that point, feel like they know you. And then they'll be thankful for the helpful follow-ups. You never know. And then the other thing that you can do with automations is pre-qualify leads, maybe price shoppers. It's basically just a fancy way of saying screen your leads automatically. For instance, you can have a short online questionnaire or even a chatbot, if you work with me, that asks what's the approximate square footage, what type of flake are you looking to get done, what is the concrete there in good shape or not? That's a question I like to ask a lot. Just simple questions, but it not only gives you info for whenever you get on the call with them, and it'll make this sales process smoother, but it can also help educate the customer. They're like, oh, I need to clean my garage before the install. I get it. By the time you talk to them, if you've pushed them through those is the concrete in good shape questions and all of that, then they're more prepared and they're more serious. And that's why I like to ask that question about if the concrete's in good shape, because it shows that you're serious, that you want, that you're forward thinking, that you don't want to quote them the wrong prices, right? So in the long run, it helps out in educating them as well, but also making sure that they're serious, right? If someone's just fishing for ballpark prices, or if they've got quotes from a bunch of people, if you automate that and you find out, if you basically your automated system might even handle that by sending them a rough estimate range. But that's what I do technically, what we do in my system is actually send out that range just to save you the time, save you the trouble, even talking to the person who's not willing to pay your prices. And so in that, if you guys want me to explain that on my end of stuff, I know a lot of systems also can't do that, but I just ask what the lowest you charge is. So if your lowest I charge for flake is $5, that's what I send to the customers as a range. I'm like, hey, this is our range. And then if you want to, this is where you book so we can talk to you. And then that will actually filter out those price shoppers basically. But the thing is that burning out in your business is super real. I've seen a ton of guys just grind themselves into the dust by trying to do all of this stuff manually, by answering every phone call, even after at all hours, forgetting to follow up on those leads that you had last week, because this week's leads are now in your face and asking you questions, or just missing out on jobs simply because of disorganization, leads falling through the cracks, saying that they never heard back from you, they never got the estimate because you weren't following up to make sure that they got the estimate. That automated system is hiring that reliable assistant who's never going to forget where people are, what they need, and it works 24/7, except for that it's way cheaper than a full-time employee, right? These systems, they're the whole thing underneath everything that we're talking about, even from the website looking good to having the Google profile with the reviews posted, all of that stuff is going to boost your conversion rate, right? So that means out of every 10 inquiries, you'll actually convert more. Instead of just converting 1 or 2 of those jobs, you'll start converting 3, 4, 5 of those jobs, simply because you responded faster or you followed up better than the other guys. Like I said, just even following up to make sure that they got their estimate. When you're doing that alone, that's one of the biggest ones I see. They're like, people will reach out, the automated system will reach out, and people are like, oh, I never even got it. Let's make sure that we got that to you, right? But if you never said that, you'd think that you lost that lead. That's what I see 99% of the time. So again, automation is just huge. And there's a ton of tools out there, different CRMs that are built for contractors that can automate some of those text messages and emails. You really don't have to code that yourself. I do it again, but there's also stuff like Jobber, House Call Pro. And then, like I said, the marketing and sales software that I use for my clients, I also have all of this automation built out for you guys too. The point is just to get a system in place, and you need that system once you have enough leads to facilitate all of that. It's one of the last steps here. Step 9 is to actually look at what your pricing is and what your messaging is. You got to shift a little bit of gears. We've been talking about a lot of foundational stuff, what you need to do, how to set up the ads, that full process. But here is, you want to actually focus on what you're actually offering. Your pricing could be off, and the way that you're communicating what you offer can be off as well. So by now, at this point, though, you should have done at least 12, 20, 30 jobs or more, right? And you should be getting a feel for the costs that you're experiencing and the costs that are associated with the marketing, and then also what your actual customer expectations are, what some problems are, etc. And then once you have all of that, that's where you can that's when it's time to actually refine. And then you can gradually raise your price. Let's say you plug into the system and you're tracking everything, you know what's going on. If you're getting upwards of even 100% close rate, that should actually send off alarms. If you're getting too high in a close rate, it means that you might want to raise your prices, right? So if you remember back to the very early stage when we were talking about getting your foot in the door, you might want to undercharge to be able to get work and get those reviews, right? So as your calendar actually fills up and your reputation grows, that's where you don't want to get afraid to start playing with the price changing. The price objections are actually always going to exist for any type of service that you do, whether it's lower end or a luxury service, right? But many clients, most people are always going to be willing to pay more for someone that they can trust to do a great job. So that line right there probably makes a lot of everything that we've been talking about make more sense, right? But again, you just need to figure out what your costs are, whether that from your materials, the time involved, labor, overhead, your ads, and then just make sure that you're making a healthy profit margin. I've seen guys charge too low on floors, and you're basically bleeding yourself out, cutting yourself out. So a good rule of thumb is to aim for a margin that lets you comfortably cover your expenses, and then obviously to still have some cash to reinvest in the end. You don't want to be the cheap guy forever either. So make sure you don't get stuck in that when you're at the start. It's nice to get the reviews and it's nice to get the referrals, but you don't want to brand yourself as the cheap guy. You want to be the quality, reliable guy that people don't mind paying a little bit more for, just to get it done and to not have to worry, right? So again, just play with your pricing. Just see if your conversion rate goes too high. If you can't close anybody, maybe just ask them. Is it why? Is it the price, or is it the product, or what? Again, a lot of the times it just comes down to your ability to communicate, right? And then from there, can you communicate your core message? What makes your business different, or what makes it better? Maybe family owned and we treat your floor like our own, or maybe you could say, hey, we only use great materials for that showroom shine, or it's done in one day, so you're back in your garage by tomorrow. I know those one day guys are out there, but there's no single right answer. It's just that you need to pick a message that resonates with your style and what your customers love about you. So check those reviews for clues at this point, and then sprinkle that message everywhere on your website, in your quotes, at the bottom of your quote, and then also in how you're talking to your clients, how you're doing your in-person estimates. Sprinkle those things in there. And like I said, your customers themselves are going to give you that feedback. Let's see here. My screen jumped around. I'm sorry, guys. So the next thing that from there is to be handling objections proactively. The two big ones in the industry, kind of touched on it a second ago, is price. Is why does it cost so much? Or Joe down the street will do it cheaper. And then the other thing is time or scheduling. How long will I be unable to use my garage? Or a different version of that is like, oh, I need to think about it. So it helps if you can address these before the client even brings them up. For price, you might have a one-page sheet that you can bring with you, or just part of your quote or your estimate system. Again, at the bottom, you can have something that actually explains the quality of the materials that you use, the skill that you're implementing, or talk about the long-term durability, talk about the warranty, basically why it's worth the investment. And then for timing objections, maybe have a frequently asked questions section on your website, or a handout that actually outlines the process for the customer, right? Day 1, prep. Day 2, base coat. Day 3, or I guess day 3, you can walk on it. I shouldn't have said top coat or base coat. Day 3, you can walk on it. Day 4, you can park your car on it, right? But you also really need to be setting these expectations beforehand. Before you even, if you can do it before you even drop the price, that's even better, because then once you drop the price, they're going to have less concerns to bring up to you. Oh, I need to wait. Oh, how much is it? You can get ahead of it. My biggest pro tip is to take the top 5 objections that you're getting from your customers. Once, again, at this point, you should have those objections. If not, I've gave you those. You can think about it. You guys should have your top 5 objections, right? If you take those and then just throw those into ChatGPT, even the free version of ChatGPT will help you out, and just ask it to help you come up with 5 solid solutions to handle those objections that you get, and then study what it tells you, and then commit those answers to your memory, commit it to your heart. And you personally, you guys on here, whoever's watching it, you guys will be light years ahead of your game. The amount of guys that I talk to that can't speak to any of these objections is insane. It is mind-blowing. And that's all you have to do. Again, it's just like have 5 different things that you could say for each thing that your customer could say. And there's only so many things that they're going to bring up. I really lean on the side that it's always price. They might tell you that they need to talk to their wife, but if you really push on them, it's price. After the wife, it's the price. So 99, I would even be willing to say almost 99%. It's either the price or they really don't like, it's either the price, the product, or they really don't like you. That's it. And most of you guys are cool. You probably wouldn't be a business owner at this point if people were going to not like you too much when you came over and were quoting them. So don't worry about that part. It's, again, 99% of the time going to be the price. So figure out how you can get ahead of those and have like plan to handle it, a plan of what to say if they say that thing. And then of course, if you've built the automated system, just use that system to the fullness of its extent. Those automated follow-ups, they can include what I call the objection handling templates in my other training. For example, if somebody gets a quote and they don't reply for a few days, you can automate your system to actually just send them a nudge about like, do you have any questions about the quote that we sent? And then that'll drum them back into your whole system for you. And they'll say, hey, I never even got the quote. And then you can call them and give them the range or schedule the in-person estimate with them from there, right? The main thing here is that the best marketing in the world cannot save a business that's not profitable or appealing to customers. So by fine-tuning your pricing, you can ensure that you're making money on each job, not just skimming. By nailing down your messaging, you can attract the right customers, those who value what you offer rather than looking for discounts and everything all the time. And then you can also filter out those who just want the cheapest deal, which those people often become super big headache clients anyways, right? And then also by addressing objections, you'll close more deals if you just get ahead of the objections before they get the opportunity to give you the objection, instead of just letting those leads slip away silently because they said that they needed to talk to their wife or their spouse. You're actually turning those question marks. I think, oh, I got to talk to my wife. I don't know. You can actually just convert them into a yes right away and get them on the first visit, first call. In-person estimates aren't calls, but the first contact close. At the end of the day, you have to remember that you're not just selling epoxy, you're not just selling flakes with a little bit of plastic on top of it, or you're selling trust and you're selling a solution to their problems. And the people, they will always pay for confidence that you're going to do it right, and the confidence that you're going to take care of them and that they're not going to have any other problems. So price and make sure that you're pricing your stuff and setting your message accordingly. Step 10, this is actually the last step here. This is where you'd want to ride the momentum of everything that we've been doing, and then ride out that compounding loop of everything that we have been doing. This is where a lot of everything comes full circle into the cycle that we've been establishing. But we put a lot of pieces into place. So let's talk about how all that works together to create a snowball effect for your business. So every single job that you complete now is going to feed right back into your marketing engine, right? When you finish a job, the customer is happy, and then you're going to ask them for a review. And then you might get a 5-star rating, right? Which is going to boost your online reputation. And then you're going to ask them for a referral. That customer actually refers their neighbor, and then now you have a new lead for free. And then, or maybe you might have to pay sometimes, like we were talking about, right? And then your growing number of reviews and the active Google profile, that actually pushes you up into the search rankings. which means more people are going to find you online. And then the more people that find you online, the more book jobs that you're going to get, which leads to even more reviews and referrals. It's a virtuous cycle: jobs, reviews, higher ranking, more jobs, more reviews, and on and on and on. In a year, you could go from 0 to 50 plus reviews and from page 5 on Google to the top 3, largely because of this exact cycle that we're talking about. And ultimately, it's just compounding is what is happening there. And you just want to make sure that you're staying on top of it. You don't want to become complacent. You will get busier, and you want to make sure that as you get busier, that you keep prioritizing those reviews and those personal touches with your customers. Don't get too lost in the sauce, basically, right? This is what got you here. If you follow this process, this is what will actually have gotten you here. And it's what will actually take you further. Even if I'm already working with you guys right now and we're getting things set up or wherever we're at, or my guys that have 30, 40 reviews on their profiles already, you guys know how awesome this is, and that it'll just continue to take you further. You ultimately need to make it part of your actual job process. Once you finish the project, hand them the care sheet for their new floor, and then ask them for the review, referral, and do that every single time without fail, unless it just was a really bad experience. But again, you guys shouldn't really be having that. So let's say that you've got a bunch of reviews now, right? So again, make sure that you put them on your website. Say, hey, we've got 30 plus 5-star reviews. Here's what our customers are saying about us. And if your Google ranking has improved from all of this, you'll definitely notice. Maybe you suddenly get more calls, people say, and without people saying that I was referred by, John or Tommy, which means that they likely found you by search. They're just calling in, right? Instead of saying, they won't announce that they found you on Google. I promise you they won't. But that's your cue, basically, that your SEO is starting to kick in when you're getting leads and it's not from referrals. And then lean into it just by adding more content, more blog posts, and then maybe at that point starting to spend on ads or increasing your ad spend, so that way you can really capitalize off of all of that traffic that you're getting. And again, as you grow, your past customers, they definitely remain in gold mine. You want to stay in touch with them. Even the holiday card, I know that sounds so dumb, but there's so many studies on that too, man. If you just send all of your customers a Christmas card, you'd be surprised when you go to ask them. If you go to ask them for a review later or a referral later, well, they'll remember that not only did you do the floor and they gave you money, but you also sent them a Christmas card. So maybe they can send you a referral, right? I hope all of that stuff is making sense for you guys. But also, your happy customers, they also might do a second floor, maybe a basement, maybe a patio, maybe they move, maybe they need their pool deck. Or maybe they know someone else and they heard somebody recently talking about something, right? And then when they hear epoxy, you want your name to pop into their heads immediately. So that happens if you've left a great impression and if you keep the relationship alive in a friendly way. This compounding loop is how your business can eventually thrive without needing to constantly pay for marketing as well, like we had mentioned earlier. It's where the organic momentum actually really kicks. In the beginning, we put a lot of manual effort for each review, referral, but in a year or two down the line, you might be getting calls saying, hey, I saw your reviews online and I just had to call, or 3 of my coworkers recommended you. That's when you know the machine you built is running underneath its own steam. And I really can't emphasize this enough. Every satisfied customer can bring 2 more. One happy customer can become 2 more. Like, that's the math, right? And you just got to play your cards right. It really becomes exponential, especially if you're pulling out all of the stops, doing all of the stuff that you need to do to get those reviews, to get those referrals. I've seen guys go from struggling to fully booked out for 2 to 3 months in advance, purely from them of happy customers, circulating their name around, leaving reviews, posting photos, posting social media content. It really feels like magic, but it's really just the payoff for all of those small actions that you do. The ask for the review, the friendly follow-up, the call a month after you did the job to make sure that they're still happy, the consistent online presence, all of that stuff is really that's the payoff that you get, is lots of customers, really. And then again, like I said, this is the last bonus step, which is, it's just something to consider. It's called a database reactivation. It's the hidden gold in your past leads. I know Tyler's on the call right now and he can attest to that. It helps a lot. Basically, anybody that I do this with, it's amazing. But whenever you've been running ads and doing jobs and asking for reviews and referrals, eventually you're going to have a couple of people slip through the cracks. So what you can do is pull off this pro move. It ultimately feels like cheating, but it's completely ethical and awesome. It's called, like I said, database reactivation. Really, that's just a fancy term for reaching back out to old leads or past customers and then turning them into new business. By now, you've probably built up a list of those contacts. Like I said, people who have inquired, but they never booked, old clients whose floors you did a year ago, etc. Most small businesses let that list just sit there and gather dust. We're not going to do that. So here's how you can tap into that existing database for extra revenue every single month. Let's say last spring you gave 10 quotes and only 4 of those became jobs, right? The other 6 went cold for various reasons. Maybe it was price, maybe timing, who knows, right? Rather than writing them off, maybe try this database reactivation campaign. For example, you can just send a quick text message or maybe write out an email and say, hey, Tommy, it's been a while, but I was thinking about your garage floor. If epoxy is still on your radar, we're running a winter special, we're running a summer special, and we have a slot open. Would you be interested in picking this back up? No pressure, just let me know. And seriously, you'd be amazed at how many people respond with, you know what? I've been meaning to do it. But sometimes the only difference between a dead lead and a customer is timing. Again, you'd be surprised. I talk to guys and they're like, no, they're dead leads. And then I text them and it turns into a job. You just got to stay in contact with these guys a lot of the time, right? Definitely, in a nutshell, new leads are great, but definitely don't ignore those old leads that you've got. You already did the hard work of marketing, getting all of the reviews to be able to get those leads in the first place, right? But maybe you even met with these people and did an estimate in person. And even if they said no or not right now, their situations do change. When you reappear in their inbox at the right time, you'll definitely catch some of those low-hanging fruit. And this alone can easily add 10% or 20% of revenue back into your business without any ad spend. You're just texting people that you already spent for, right? So it's leveraging the asset that you've been building quietly that we haven't really talked about. It's that contact list. And I call it hidden gold because it really does feel that way. The first time that I tried a database reactivation blast, I was super skeptical. I thought, these people all ghosted this contractor. There's no way that they're going to be interested. And to my surprise, like I said, now it happens every single time, but a few replied almost immediately, happy to hear from me. And then I was able to book 2 decent sized jobs. I don't think it was actually in that week, but from old leads. And like I said, this is actually a regular occurrence that happens with any guys that I bring on, and we just set them up and text these old leads, man. It's crazy. But from then on, you just make it part of your regular part of your strategy. Every single month, every 3 months, text out those leads that you have lost, that you'd never closed, and you'll be making a ton of money. So I know we've covered a lot, but let's just zoom out and see the journey really quick. So you start from 0, no clients, no ads, just grit and grind, right? And then you build your presence, a solid website, a Google profile, get a handful of reviews, and you hustle for the referrals. And then slowly the engine starts humming, the phone starts ringing a little bit, you get a few jobs, and you make sure that every single job feeds the engine, more reviews and more word of mouth. And then you cement your foundation online by keeping the info consistent, sharing content that educates and inspires more so educates, but inspires your leads as well. And then you carefully layer on ads to reach more people and implement automation so that way no leads are slipping through the cracks and you can stay sane in the process. And then from there, you adjust your pricing and your messaging to make sure that you're profitable and attracting the right clients. And then now the machine is really running. You're getting jobs, which leads to reviews, which increases your rankings, which leads to more jobs, and it becomes a self-sustaining loop. And then for an extra boost, you just periodically reactivate those old leads that you lost to keep the pipeline really flowing. And this is exactly what I do. It's what I have done, and it's what I would do if I were starting an epoxy flooring company today. None of it is really like a get-rich-quick magic scheme. It's just super practical. It's step-by-step process that you need to follow that really any determined person can actually do as well. The key, again, through all of this, from the website information to how many times you're posting, all of it is consistency, and then also understanding why each piece matters. They all really reinforce each other. And the momentum itself is a beautiful thing. In the beginning, you'll be pushing a boulder up the hill, sweating for every single inch that you're pushing it, right? But once it's at the top and it starts rolling down, it starts to just really accelerate on its own. My goal with all these steps is to get your business flywheel spinning, so that way eventually it takes less effort to keep it going than it did to start. And then if you followed along and you're fired up to put all of this into practice, but you really don't want to do this yourself, you can reach out to me. I'm here to help out epoxy contractors shortcut that trial and error process and install this whole system into your business directly. Sometimes a quick call or some coaching is all it really takes to go from I'm doing it and winning. So if you're ready to level up, and if you want my help, just say the word. I'd be excited to help you get there. So hopefully this helps you guys see that full process, that whole cycle. And if anything, I would just say to go out there, go build your epoxy empire one floor at a time. You've got the blueprint now. The next move is yours, and good luck and never stop improving, you guys. I